because they know I'm not trying to make a dime off of them. I'm just trying to help them to be successful. But then they'll bring me stuff and say, hey, we're having this problem in the plant. Does Siemens have anything? And I'll say, yeah, and I'll go grab somebody and bring in, and they'll start having conversations. And so I'm always looking for whatever it is to help them. That's my goal.
Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast powered by Siemens. And now, your host, Niall Sullivan.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Trend Detection Podcast. I'm really pleased to be joined today by my colleague, Tim Hunt, based all the way in the US. And today, we're going to be talking about customer success and predictive maintenance, of course, and how those work together, and how, more importantly, how can customer success enable predictive maintenance success, I guess, is the best way to put it. But before we get started, Tim, it'd be great if you just introduce yourself to the audience and what your role is at Siemens and within the Senseye team.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here. Name's Tim Hunt, located out of Kentucky is my base location. I've been in the maintenance role for a little over 33 years now. Worked at Logan Aluminum. It's aluminum rolling mill in Russellville, Kentucky for 25 years, and that's where I retired from. And the last 10 years there, I was the plant reliability specialist. I had the opportunity to be able to work with building PdM programs throughout the plant and the different departments, and to train PdM coordinators and all the PdM technologies, ultrasound, thermography, ultrasonics, vibration, and even at the end there with AI. So I loved being in that teaching role and just seeing how predictive maintenance can change the whole bottom line. And it has so many benefits. And that's when, after I retired, that's when I went to, I saw an opening at Senseye, and I'm like, they're talking AI, predictive maintenance, and that's just my passion. I love talking about it. I love being a part of it. So I got to talking to those folks and came on board with them, and I've just had a blast being customer success manager, and I get to work at North America, work with folks from Australia and Canada, and just getting to work with them and help them build their programs. So that's a little of my background.
Oh, excellent. No, thank you for that. I guess before we get started, because the first question is really diving into the role of customer success, because I think it's a common role with software businesses, of course, and we want to talk about its relation to predictive maintenance. But first of all, you've got quite a unique background to this, being on the maintenance side as well, Tim. How does that sort of help you in your role, I guess, first of all?
Oh, it's huge, because as customer success, when I'm on calls with these folks or meeting with them, they pull out from me, they're like, hey, have you seen this before? Have you? And then when I'll see something, that we'll be looking at a problem, and I'll say, hey, have y'all thought about this? Have you thought about, you say a whole drivetrain is shaking, and what's going on? I say, hey, go grab your motion amplification camera. Let's see what's going on. And it's, I'm very broad, because I'm certified throughout all the technologies in PdM. So I can really get them to thinking broadly and offer. I'm a huge resource to them, and that's why I think I get along with them so well, because I want them to win. That's the bottom line.
No, and what a lovely attitude that is. You want them to win, because everyone wins, right? I guess that's the point, right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
And I guess, yes, let's define sort of customer success, or basically define your role. What is it day to day, Tim, and how does it sort of differ from maybe more traditional sort of support with software?
Thinking back on this, back when I was my last 10 years at Logan, I was over the plant. I was the plant reliability specialist. I got to work with so many vendors and so many contractors and everything. And the traditional folks would come at me always trying to sell me something. It was always this new widget. Let's say, buy this, buy it. That was traditional. But then I had a few really, truly good customer success reps, and they was concerned about me. And they wanted to know, what can I do for you? How can we help you win? So when I got hired into Senseye, of course Siemens now, I was able to say, that's the example I want to lead. I want them to win, and I want them to do good, and I want to be a part of that. So I make it clear to them right out of the gate. Hey, I'm not selling anything. We got sales folks. We got some great sales teams. And if you want to buy something, I'll bring them into the conversation. But other than that, and they actually look at me different because they know I'm not trying to make a dime off of them. I'm just trying to help them to be successful. But then they'll bring me stuff and say, hey, we're having this problem in the plant. Does Siemens have anything? And I'll say, yeah. And I'll go grab somebody and bring in, and they'll start having conversations. And so I'm always looking for whatever it is to help them. That's my goal.
So I guess what you're saying, Tim, or how it comes across, it's a very organic thing. Ultimately you're trying to help the customer be successful, but it's from a place of, we're having this problem. How can Siemens help to solve it? Right. That's
exactly.
The attitude. Yeah,
it is. And it's about building trust. It's about building relationships, building trust. And then they can bring those questions to me and know that I'm not trying to sell something. Now I'm always trying to expand their program. I'm wanting to expand to different departments. Let's go broader. But that's so they can win more. We're cutting their downtime down because we're able to catch more failures as we expand. So which is good for them. I am looking for those opportunities.
Okay, so must be one of the biggest misconceptions, I guess, of the role, that you are there to sell more, whether it's product or or deliver it or whatever, or expertise or whatever it may be. But are there other sort of misconceptions that other people think that they misunderstand your role?
That's the biggest one, is they think, this guy he's always going to be selling us a widget. That's the biggest one. And I've had several of them thank me for not trying to always push something on them, not trying to sell them. That's the big one, because they think, because their experience is that's what most customer success folks do. They're always trying to sell something. So, and as I build that trust, that just goes a long ways. I'm able to get information. I'm able to help them more. And so for me, it's just building that relationship.
You mentioned that word trust, which clearly in any business relationship is very important. But how do you go about building that trust in the context of predictive maintenance and customer success?
Being a resource to them and looking, and everything I do is funneled to helping them win. I want them to be the hero in their story. One of the things I do is, say you have somebody, and especially if it's somebody new, a new plant champion, and we're really struggling to get them engaged. What do? They'll finally have a win. When they have a win, I'll create a success slide, and I'll give them this slide. I say, hey, take this to your boss. And I said, show it to him. They'll take it to their boss, and their boss goes to bragging on them. The boss builds them up because they're like, wait a minute. And then their boss goes to his boss. Look at what my guy or gal done. Then it gets, and it just builds. Now I'm building their self-esteem up. I'm building their confidence up. Hey, I can do this. I like this feeling, this emotion that comes with winning. And so I want, and this guy is the one that's helping me do this. And I tell them, hey, this is your slide that you take 100% credit for it, and you and your team and run with it. And I got that from, we used to do that at Logan, and the success we had would actually be presented to the board of directors every time they had a meeting, because the plant manager absolutely loved these wins because we was making a difference. We was saving the company money. We was cutting down, the downtime was cut way down due to unnecessary failures and stuff like that. So that, I'm, again, by building this trust, by trying to make them the hero in their story, it ends up, a win-win for everybody.
So, my initial reaction to that, there's two things to take away. Is that you're putting the customer at the heart of what you do, which makes sense. With a title like customer success, it's clearly built around that. But another key aspect of it, Tim, to me, is all around momentum and building momentum around success. So it's not just about one success, it's how do you build on top of that and help spread the word throughout an organization, especially when we're talking about scale and the enterprise, I guess.
Yeah. That is so true. That's, as you scale, you get more wins, you're more successful, you're bringing more folks in. One of the big ones, I mean, we think, we only need the maintenance folks. No, I want the process folks in there, because when the process folks get hooked into it, they're like, hey, you can affect the process of this machine. And then you got, typically in the maintenance world and process world, they're butting heads. It's your problem. No, it's your problem. But when you can bring them all to the table and let the data lead you, then it's a win-win for everybody.
So when we talk about, bringing successes to the table and helping share them internally, what examples of sort of key metrics or KPIs do you sort of encourage? I know it might depend customer to customer, but maybe some general examples would be great.
One of the things I do is use success slides. I've got a slide deck that when I come to a customer, say it's a new customer, and they're, I'll show them a slide deck of what winning looks like, because most customers, they go into this thing thinking vibration. They got tunnel vision, but when I'll show them a slide deck, it shows them, hey, we've had success by monitoring your valve data, process data, pressures, flows, differential pressure, all of that. And then they're like, wait a minute, we've got that data. We have that information. I mean, and they're able, this morning, I was just on a call with a customer, and I shared that slide deck. I think they're going to take that slide deck and show it to their team today, because they're so excited of, hey, we hadn't even thought about valves. We hadn't even thought about heat exchangers. It's opening their mind up to where we can do so much more here. And it's not going to be an added cost, because we've already got the information sitting there somewhere. We find out most companies are data rich. They have got data lakes full of information that they're not doing anything with. And that's what Senseye is so strong about, brings so much value, is give us that data. We've seen as much as monitoring the floats on hydraulic tanks, the float level. And when we had one customer, it got a big leak, and the float, and it triggered a case, and the Copilot told them, go out there and look for a leak, and that was really cool. Sure enough, they've got a leak. So it's, you don't ever think about hydraulic reservoirs and floats and stuff, but there's so much that we can do outside of vibration.
Thanks. And it's interesting you mentioned data, and having, there's lots of untapped data. Do you know, what's your sort of view on why there's so much data, flowing through a plant and not being used? Do you have a sort of a theory around that?
Whenever they build these machines, these lines, it doesn't matter if it's a steel mill, coal mill, or aluminum mill, or all the technology across the board. You look at all the technology that Siemens has, it's just unreal. And they're able to grab everything. Well, most plants are not even thinking about, they're looking at just highlights of the process, and they're just not aware of how much more they can do with all this data they've got. So that's kind of what I've seen in the past, because once, it's just, they just don't know how rich it is to be able to look at a valve position. One example, I shared with the team this morning, the customer was one slide was a valve. The operators kept opening the valve more and more, and it started trending upward, and it triggered a case. And they're like, why have you got to open this valve so much in order to keep the oven temperatures up to temp? Well, come to find out, there was a blockage. Somebody remembered, hey, back in the past, we had a blockage in this line, and we kept having to open the valves. So they went, opened it up. Sure enough, the line was about half blocked with just sediment, and they was able to clean it out. Now it's triggered. It's set up to where now they know to look for it whenever they see this. And so that's exciting to see, because you just don't think about that stuff.
That's a really interesting story as well. And one of the an interesting story in the sense that because we talk about the software, and we can talk about Senseye and how great it is and what it does. But what you're also saying there is the maintenance knowledge was crucial there, because they were aware, they know machines better than anyone, right?
Yes.
And they knew that something had happened previously, and that came into their mind. So that knowledge of maintain is still a key component of success in predictive maintenance, right?
Yes. Hey, and what's so valuable that Senseye offers is whenever, like in that situation about the valve, they went in and entered a work event, and they put all the details in there. And actually, the Copilot, it's learning from that. And here lately, I've had a lot of customers say, for instance, a good one is when a fan shaft or a fan blades get dirty, you'll see it'll start trending upwards, the vibration wheel at that bearing location, and it'll trigger a case. Now, and it say it happened a year ago. Now I've got customers that are saying, I wrote that right there. I mean, that's how I wrote it. And they're able to see that they put in there a year ago, and the Copilot will go back and say, hey, based off of what this looks like, this is what you need to go clean your fan blade. So I see customers get excited. Hey, this thing is learning. It said it just the same way as I would say it. So that's fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, let's touch on that a little bit, Tim, the Copilot, and how that's fundamentally changed how you interact with the app, how you interact with customers, how customers interact with the app. Maybe you could sort of summarize that. You have done a little bit there, but maybe go into more detail about that.
Oh, the Copilot is getting stronger and stronger. And the way I understand it, it's an internal Copilot to Siemens Senseye. It's nothing that's going to be shared with the world or nothing. It doesn't go out. This is internal to us. And it learns our machines and the machines of the customers, and it's never shared with nobody. But what's so powerful about it is we know we've got an aging workforce. Most of your senior maintenance folks are retiring out. They've had they're like myself. They've had 25 plus years of experience, and they've got a lot of head knowledge, but they haven't put it down on paper. Now, right before they retire, maybe somebody they stick with them for a couple months to shadow them, but that's not good enough to where in Senseye, you can go in, enter the details, enter the information, and that will be there forever. So when this guy or gal that fixed it, they retire out, you got a young person just come out, come on board with in the maintenance department. He looks at that and it gives them a direction. Hey, you need to go check this. You need to go look at this. This is probably what it is. And that's what the Copilot is getting stronger and more powerful at doing, because I'm seeing it more and more, and I love it. And once the customer realizes, hey, we do have a retiring workforce, this is some good information, then they're on board. They're actually putting in more details into their work events, and when they close cases out, they're doing a really good job. And you can get down to, don't forget you need a 3/4 wrench here. The details of all of that you can put as much details as you want.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to hear, because it just sounds like such a step forward. And I guess the other thing, going back to your example before of the person knowing about is the valve too open and why, and there might be a blockage and things like that. But instead of that information just living in someone's head or written down somewhere, it can actually be fed into Senseye and the Copilot and resurface later when for that exact reason, right? What you described.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, we're seeing that more and more because on your fans, because every company, I don't care what the name is outside, every company has fans. They've got fans and blowers, and what's it doing? It's moving dirty air. Dirty air builds up debris on fan blades. So that's low-hanging fruit right there. I spent a career watching vibration go up on dirty fan blades. You can catch them all day long and say, hey, next outage, you need to wash these fan blades. And you're catching it so early, you're not damaging the bearings. You keep these fans running for years the way they're designed to. Now, you let this fan blade get dirty, it's going to beat the bearings out. Now you're going to have major issues. If you don't catch the bearing and change it, then you're going to have secondary failures. That fan's going to drop, the bearing will fail, and then a lot of times, and we've seen this before, the fan would actually drop and just destroy the housing. Just debris, metals flying everywhere because this fan dropped and it just destroyed the house. Now you're getting into big money, big downtime, because your secondary failures are always your most expensive. So instead of them changing out that $300 bearing, now they're buying a brand new shaft. Now they're rebuilding the housing, and you've got a bunch of downtime because that mill cannot run without this fan getting the exhaust fumes off of it or whatever. So it's huge that the Senseye can predict ahead of time and give you plenty of time to schedule it on outage. That's the main thing. We got to get this thing to an outage. You can have all the pieces and the parts sitting there ready. The maintenance folks, they get their breaks. They get to eat lunch. They're not working in an upset condition. That's what's so powerful about being able to schedule it. Now, say for instance, I'll say this to the customer: are you concerned? Is your plant really concerned about safety? Now, if the answer is yes, if safety is a crucial in your plant, and you want to make a difference with safety, you can do that with predictive maintenance, and you can do that with the Senseye tool, because it's going to tell you let's change this out on an outage where it's a controlled environment. Because I know 30 years ago, everything was run to failure, and there's so many companies today that's run to failure. That's all they know. So when it fails, they jump in there and they like a fire team that's putting out a fire, and everything's a hammer, everything's a pry bar. They're cut up. I mean, that we was rewarded for working unsafe. My arms and hands was always cut up. I mean, the old timers would teach you keep some crazy glue in your toolbox, and if you get cut, you wash it out, you glue it back together, and you get back in there and get to work. That's the mindset. That's the way I was trained early on in my career. Is we got to get it done, because behind you is a team leader saying, how much longer? When's this going to be up and running? We got to run. We got trucks waiting on. So that's the power that Senseye brings to it. Is your maintenance folks can work in a safer environment, and you're going to protect them. That means they go home at the end of the day with the way they came in. So for me, that's a powerful story.
Yes, interesting, and it relates because obviously you know BlueScope Steel, and you've worked with the team very closely for quite a long time now. But it reminds me of an interview I did. It's on the podcast actually, with Chris Swanson about a particular success case which the Copilot assisted with, but it saved 24 hours of unplanned downtime. It's obviously a big thing, but the other important aspect I took from it was that health and safety. It's about when's the right time, the safest time to actually go in and repair and make the repair. And that's the point he sort of pressed quite heavily with that.
That's right.
As well.
Right. One of the big ones that Chris has reported before is they've got these big ovens. And these ovens are huge, and they're really hot. And when they have a failure, the maintenance folks have to get in there in that heat, to where if they can schedule, and they had a motor, the torque had elevated on it. So they was able to schedule that, to have that motor changed out because of the torque values rising, schedule it on the outage. They give the oven time to cool down. So now the maintenance folks are working in a cool environment, and it's not in an upset state. So, I mean, it's just, I get the opportunity to see those kind of examples, and us making a difference for all different kinds of companies. It doesn't matter. We're getting to make a difference.
Okay, you've mentioned this already, Tim, about the importance of putting trust in the app and in the team, and that it's going to do what it says it do. Like when you buy any products, I guess. But how do you? I think we actually mentioned it before, but sort of building the trust in the app, and how often do you? Actually, I might start that question again. I was getting muddled. This never happens, I swear. So, Tim, you mentioned trust in the app before, which is really crucial, of course. Actually, I'm losing my train of thought. What was I going to ask? Just trust in the app. Around. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to do. Okay. So, Tim, you mentioned about building trust in the app, which is very important. And as part of your own customer success is to look into cases, what's happened, what was the resolution. But there must be times, but early on when they're trying to build trust, when trying to build and understand the app, where something's missed or they ignore certain indicators from Senseye. I mean, how do you sort of go about discussing that with the customer and resolving that?
You just have to be open with them and say, hey, you missed this. A lot of time, we see this a lot of times with the new customers. They don't want to close their cases. And I was last week I was able to share with a customer, they had left some cases open. And once a case is generated, it will not create another case until you close that case. Well, as this machine was running, something else was starting to go wrong, and it elevated and it generated a case, but that case was in the background. You can see it, and so they never got to see the real issue because they didn't close their previous case. So I really have. So that's one of the early things is, hey, you got to close these cases, and I've got an example that I'll show them. Hey, this is why you have to keep your cases cleaned up, keep them closed, and because the bad stuff could come right after this, and you won't never see it. And so you just got to just keep working with them. Don't give up on them, and just keep hammering it out.
And keep, reason to keep cases open. I mean, one thing could be, it's an admin task, which, and people are busy and things like that. But is there other reasons why cases are left open longer than they need to be in a lot of cases?
We ask them to move their cases to what's called a watch list so that they can monitor it. Sometimes things will elevate, and it might be because of the process. They're running the process. They're running a different machine or different alloy. They're running a different motor or something like that day, and it gets the machine excited, and then they go back to a different alloy, and the machine quiets back down. So that they might leave that case open just to see, okay, when we shift back to this other, okay, yes, it is. So that was process related, that case was, and it wasn't a real issue. So they was able to, then they will go in and close it, but they will put on their process related.
And I guess on that, in that respect as well. So I'm just thinking, that's, maybe sometimes a lack of attention to the, or lack of focus, I'll say sometimes, because I mean, we know people are busy and, Senseye is just one part of their day, maybe. But are there other sort of warning signs that maybe the PdM rollout or initiative is stalling, that you can spot straight away, like not closing cases or, not being responsive? Are there other sort of warning signs that you could think of?
There is. There's the companies that have been successful have plant champions. I mean, we tried to push every plant should have a plant champion or even a department champion. And when these folks, the plant champion or department champion, when they are willing to learn or they want to make a difference for the company, and we can work with that. But then every now and then we'll get somebody that they appoint, hey, you're going to be their plant champion. And they have no willingness to learn. They just want to do it the old way. AI is a black box. I mean, we really struggle there because, I mean, we can only go so far to push, and that's when I'm trying to push the success slides on them. Hey, this is what winning looks like. You can make a difference at your company. But every now and then you'll get a bad apple that just is not willing to learn, and it's just so hard to work with that.
So it's interesting. So, because we've even done podcasts, I think, in the past about, PdM champions and the importance of champions. But it's interesting what you're saying. So, but sometimes, you can't just appoint anyone and say, you're a champion now. It's about a culture and a mindset as well. I guess it has to follow it as well. It's not just about you're told to do something, because that only goes so far.
That is so true. It's their culture that plays into it. And sometimes I can break through that because with my background, I mean, I've worked with some hard knocks throughout my life, and I've been able to break through sometimes I can, sometimes I can't with the customers. It's just, and usually it ends up somebody, that's with upper management. Hey, we need some help here, so and so, and we can actually see in the app and see, hey, they haven't logged on to the app in 2 months. They're not doing this. Can we get some support here from your side? And usually that has to come from their upper management to, hey, we need some help here. We want y'all to be successful. Y'all got to work with us here. So that's a tough one right there.
Yeah, no, clearly, I guess there's no simple answer. It's sort of partly, your role as customer success to help capture the successes and push the use of the app, but also internally there needs to be a push from like upper management or, a strategic push behind it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I guess as we come to the end, Tim, it's again been fantastic to speak to you. I just want to get your view on an overall view on customer success and where do you see it now that we talked about Copilots and Gen AI and the changing workforce, and there's lots of different elements, but how do you see customer success evolving with this ever evolving predictive maintenance landscape we're in at the moment?
I think the big one is having Copilot. The folks are going to be able to react faster. We're also the vibration part of Senseye it's so much better. They've come a long ways with it. So when you go to throwing Copilot and being able to diagnose vibration issues inside the app, that's huge. We're able to do some things now with the technology that we haven't been able to do before. But the Copilot, I get excited about that one because it gives them a direction. Go clean your fan blade. Okay, I can do that. Then they schedule it and they rolling with it. So that's the big one.
And I guess, and I've done it again. I realise I always say last question, then ask another question. But in terms of the feedback from customers in your role as customer success for the Copilot, what sort, how have people responded to that functionality? Which, like I said, has been a huge development in terms of timeline. Credit to the product team. It's really they've really rolled it out and continuously improving it. But as it stands now, how what sort of reaction have you had?
It's been really good. Especially when they can see their comments. When they see that, they're sold. They're like, yes, that I wrote that. Because everybody writes in a different form and stuff. And when a Copilot spits it out the way that you write, then that person is sold. Then they're going to be putting in more comments. They're going to give more details. So I get excited when I see the customers get excited like that. But it's been very well received.
Excellent. And that's a nice way to end, actually. You get just as excited because I think that's actually really come across in this podcast, Tim. So your excitement about seeing success with customers and seeing them doing really well and then rolling it out further, which I think is at the heart of the role, basically. You have to, from a customer success perspective. Yes, sir. I agree. Excellent. And long may it continue. But yeah, no, for today, I think that's all for today. But thank you, Tim, for joining us. And we'll certainly invite you back soon if you want to be invited back, of course, for future conversations. It'd be great. But yeah, thank you to you. And thank you to everyone listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.